Joining me on the phone now, I was joking before. Actually, I wasn't joking. It's not a joke. That years ago, after working with this guy at NFL Network, I said, you know what? Kara Henderson and I said, world's greatest human. And Charles Davis from CBS is now getting ready to call. Charles, how many Super Bowls will this be for you?
Hey, Andrew. This will be 8.
8. That is awesome.
Yes, my 8th. Yeah. How fortunate am I?
And Charles, you, for those who don't know, Charles lives in Florida, so this is kind of a local game for you here. Before we actually get to the game, could you try to paint the picture what Tampa is like this year, being different than all other Super Bowl cities in the middle of a pandemic?
Well, the Super Bowl's going on. You can tell that. That part's easy. Your signage is everywhere. Cars are going by with the Bucs stuff. All the stores have the Go Bucs and Super Bowl 55, and people are very excited about it, but you don't have the throngs. That's what's different. People would have poured into the city by now already, and you would recognize it everywhere. If you go to get something to eat, right? You go to grab a coffee, just walking down the street somewhere. Where we've done the shows is a wonderful place called, I believe it's called Armature Works, and it's set right off the water in Tampa, and this nice little great area, which is perfectly conducive to a lot of crowds watching the shows and what have you. And Andrew, from past experience at Super Bowls, heck, on a Thursday night game, right? If you do something in the afternoon or whatever, you attract people. And it's just not the numbers, and that's part of COVID. People can't be out in crowds and next to each other. And I know Florida's a little more wide open than a lot of places because I live in the state, but that doesn't still make it where everybody's like, yeah, let's go hang out. It's just not the same, and you don't have the visitors coming in at the same rate.
Charles, I think we're talking to Charles Davis here from CBS, who is in Tampa calling the game on the international feed here coming up on Sunday, Super Bowl 55, Charles' 8th Super Bowl. I think, and you know this from being out in stadiums every week and talking to teams virtually every week leading up to games, teams are used to this by now. This is the world we've lived in, and teams have adjusted. Yeah. This is not in any way different. But I tell me if I'm nuts. I do think that the Chiefs benefit this week by flying in on Saturday and not being there, regardless of how dialed back the throngs of humanity are. I think, Am I wrong to think that they can benefit from staying at home all week?
I'm with you on that one. That's been one of the great questions all week, and I don't know that we'll have a definitive answer when the game's over, Andrew. It's just, where it's all theory, isn't it? How does it work best? It's kind of like an analogy would be, for the longest time when you went to play in Denver, remember when we were kids, everybody talked about how you had to get there earlier in the week and acclimate your team, right? So teams would leave really early in the week. And then you found out from sports scientists, they said, hold on a second. The worst of it actually occurs after 3 or 4 days because it takes longer than that to acclimate. The best thing you can do is go as late as possible. And I remember there was an AFC championship game, and I think your beloved Cleveland Browns may have asked the league if they could come in late in the evening because they were supposed to be there by a certain time.
It would have been 89 if that were the case.
Yeah, I think it was them, but don't hold me to it. But somebody for a really important game asked the league if they could come in later, and I believe it was granted, and I think the Broncos flipped out. Like, whoa. They're supposed to be in by this time because they were hoping some more of those altitude effects would take place. My point is very simply this. This year, if Kansas City had to come and be in Tampa for an entire week, it's not the hotels at all. It's just the atmosphere. The atmosphere is this is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers home game. I mean, and the Bucs would have been in their own beds and all those other things. To me, it would have been a major disadvantage. But this one, a normal business trip, oh, yeah. And how many games in a row now have the Chiefs won with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, either road or neutral? We're in double digits. I think it's 12 straight. So I'm with you on this one. This one, to me, benefits Kansas City. The only thing that's changed for them this week is they've had to do more Zoom media obligations.
Sure.
Everything else, own beds, own practice field, everything like that. I think it's a huge advantage, not advantage, but a huge relief for Kansas City since they're playing Tampa Bay. If it was playing someone else, then it's all neutral, right? Everybody's doing the same thing anyway. But this is different because Tampa is the home team, and truly the home team.
Yeah, and the virtual commitments are still there, and they're massive this week. But you can do them from home, or you could do them from the facility, or you could do them in your car if someone else is driving, for Pete's sake. When you are there.
Tom Brady did his getting treatment.
Right. When you're there, if you're one of the big name players, hey, guess what? The car service is picking you up Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. You got to be downstairs, and they got to get you across town to get to this appearance you're doing. And then you got to sign a couple autographs. It's a meet and greet, and then you're going back, and you're trying to juggle all those. Not everyone has those, but none of those, for lack of a better word, distractions are there. And sometimes for a second-year Super Bowl team, a team that has done that, you would have learned to cut them out anyway. Like, we came last year, we had a good time, we've gone through this, we're the veterans now, and maybe it wouldn't have been that bad. But just being able to be at home and get up like it's any other game. Saturday morning, get to the facility, do your COVID test, do your TSA, get on the bus, fly there, check in, do your meetings as normal. Nothing's different except just a bunch of interviews during the week. Talking to the great Charles Davis. For those,
I would agree. Great point on that, Andrew, and I'm just going to cap it with this.
Yeah.
What we're seeing with this Super Bowl and how we are having to cover it, it'll be interesting when we have this conversation when we get back to what we keep calling a normal world. Now, we know nothing will be normal again. But let's say we're back to where you move around freely. We're not having to wear masks, right? We can have throngs again. How many different things we're adding this year or doing this year will we retain in how we cover next year? Because I do think if we get it back, media night on Monday night, I think it'll come back because it was such a happening. But the rest of the stuff during the week where they have to go to the podium and that may change and the Zoom stuff may stay in order to take a lot of the burden off the players, as you just talked about.
Charles, it's a great point, and it's something that Roger Goodell in his State of the League address yesterday was asked about. And the one thing that he said, not specifically about Super Bowl week stuff necessarily, but just broad strokes, he said virtual isn't going away. I think next year, no one thinks the world is going back to normal by kickoff 2021, but hopefully we're part of the way there, right? Hopefully there is progress. It's not entirely like it is right now. And so then you're kind of caught in the middle. You keep some of the stuff you implemented this year. You kind of open things up a little bit, just like the real world. And it might be 2 or 3 years till the real world gets back to being the real world. And that goes for the NFL as well. And then as you adapt, what do you actually keep? I want to ask you about the quarterbacks here, because as a former defensive back, right? I know you can't be looking in the backfield here, right? You can't have your eyes in the backfield. Is that different though when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, where so much stuff is off schedule?
Yeah, and that's what we talk in so many buzz phrases. Right? The cool phrase that pops up. Remember when a quarterback could throw the ball really well, and now we say he has arm talent?
Right. You can tell me I'm nuts, by the way. You can tell me I'm just using jargon if you want.
You're not nuts. You're not nuts, but where I'm going with that is the phrase that is really in vogue and has been over the past few seasons is what? You want to get their eyes in the wrong place. Right? That's what you want to do with defenders. And we used to call it faking them out. Now we say we want their eyes wrong. Okay, cool. Whatever you want.
It's like a George Carlin bit right here. I love it.
Right, but as a defensive back, your training has always been when things break down, your eyes don't go to the quarterback; they go to where the receivers are. And so now, of course, we don't just go cover the receiver; you plaster to the receiver. And that's where the key is with a guy like that, because when he's moving around, he puts you in a situation where, especially those underneath coverage guys, make a decision, hey, I'm going to go tackle Mahomes and leave an area, flick. Kelsey grabs it and goes 30 yards, or whoever it is. That's what they're talking about. That's what you're worried about as a defensive back. With Tom Brady, he's not going to run around and scare you. But they've been talking this week, and it's such a great point, that in the pass rush, his ability to evade and shoulder shrug and step up or step sideways and find an open space and then set his feet and make a big-time throw, it's second to none. I mean, Frank Clark was talking about it. Chris Jones was talking about it. The pass rush for Kansas City. Chris Jones has no sacks in the playoffs so far, so he's more than due. And he was lamenting that he thought he had Tom Brady in a playoff game, and he gave him that shoulder shrug and missed. And he said, I still don't know how I missed.
He said, Frank Clark said yesterday, he's got great shoulders. Like, to Charles's point, I've never heard a defender go, that quarterback's got great shoulders.
But that call comes out of the drill work in the offseason, and you'll see it. You know, you'll see it in this game from both of them. When the pass rush comes and they feel it coming to either side or both sides, watch how they make sure they turn their body to where, you know, the back foot and the front foot, and you're really sideways. And they'll do that shoulder shimmy thing and kind of pull themselves through the pass rush and either step up or step to the side trying to find that open space. It's those small little movements that create big plays downfield. It's not necessarily taking off and getting to the perimeter and doing the boogaloo. It's a lot more of those small, deft slide steps, and Brady's the master of those.
Charles, one last thing before we let you go, and I appreciate your time. You have a game, I'm told, coming up on Sunday. You probably have some prep to do, and so we greatly appreciate it.
No problem.
Was listening to Frank Reich and Phillip Rivers a couple of months ago, and they both said how they, on Monday, go back and watch the TV copy, so the on-air broadcast, and they listen for what was picked up on the TV mics, because this year everything's picked up with no fans in the stands, and that they have to go through and change things more so than they have in any other season, obviously. Considering these two teams played each other, and considering there is a season's worth of film now, how radically do you think in these 2 weeks that these two teams have had to rewrite their line calls, their checks, everything?
Probably not as radically as we might think, because I think both of them have seasoned head coaches. They're going to make sure that you don't overthink it and overburden people with change. But there will be some changes along the way. Similar to baseball signals, you can keep the exact same signals, right? You just change the indicator, when the signal's on and when it's off, right? That's kind of what I think these teams are going to try and do, to maybe, hey, we used this last time. Give it to them right out of the gate and see if they tumble to it.
Right, see if they bite.
And we know that we're going to something else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. See if they bite.
Just don't overthink it. Yeah, just don't all of a sudden, hey, we're changing everything, guys. Now they're standing there thinking and not playing. And I think that's bad for both teams. I think with these two coaches, that there's no danger of that happening.
And while you're at it, if you're Kansas City, be sure to walk around the stadium and make sure there's no one there banging a trash can. If you're going to bring baseball into it, Charles, let's make sure there's no banging of trash cans on the concourse here to help out the home team.
Or waving the towel from center field.
Or waving the towel. Yeah, make sure there's no one on the pirate ship in any way raising a flag to somehow indicate anything is coming from the Chiefs. The great Charles Davis from CBS, who you could hear on the international call. It is great to have you on, sir. Great to connect as always. Have a great game on Sunday.
Thanks a lot. Always great to connect with you. Sorry I missed you last week in Mobile, but we will reunite there next year.
We missed you, and don't worry, you didn't miss the bacon donuts on Sunday morning. There were none because of COVID. No bacon donuts.
Next year.
Next year in Mobile, which I believe is in the Old Testament. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, sir. Be good.
Likewise.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.